Uh, what is your assessment of some of the talent that you witnessed yesterday from the Tacoma
Yeah.
Defiance?
Oh, I mean, it was a great game. I'd say overall we had the better of the chances and probably just didn't reward ourselves with the win. But I'm really proud of quite a few of the guys. I actually don't think anyone underperformed on the field, and we had a couple guys stand out. And I think Snyder Brunell in the middle. And that's a big task when you're playing against an MLS team. But several guys. I mean, obviously goal scoring is important, but you go back into the defensive line, and they handled every bit of that. And barring a few missed opportunities for the official, I think that result could have been different.
Kelvin Kelsey is a guy that probably worth more than most of the guys that were on that field for the Tacoma Defiance side.
Yeah.
And you guys were able to limit it. How important is that for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they threw out over 400 or 500 MLS starts and well over, 10 to 11 million dollar players. And so, when you match that up, I think we look at the competitively, we take care of ourselves first, right? And so what we were asking of our guys was to go out, stand up, get your shoulders square, and treat yourselves the way you deserve to be treated, which is you belong here. And for the most part, our body language was fantastic from the whistle, and I think that's what carried us through. The guys went out and they played the game they've been playing week in and week out with Defiance. They combined well. Some of the chances last night were absolutely fantastic. We didn't get every finish. Of course, we want every half chance and full chance to be a goal, but overall, it's a 10 out of 10 in terms of performance.
In terms of players this was a particularly big test. We've been talking a lot about, Georgie having the final ball. We've been talking about how Saze would look when he's going up against MLS talent.
Yep.
Sukanome, it's kind of the same thing.
Kaito, Stewart,
Yeah,
Hawkins,
you gotta go down the
finally got to play.
Yeah, right.
Travian says, Reed Baker Whiting on his first game back, good opportunities for these guys.
And so developmentally, do you think it would? I mean, is it one of those kind of like A+, like you just don't really have notes developmentally almost?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I usually walk away from those games with this one or two players stood out. Last night was really collective, and it was a phenomenal night in terms of development from a Sounder perspective. As I told the coaching staff last night after the game, you can't ask your guys to do more than they did. And so the preparation was obvious, the preparation was clear, the game plan was clear. It was executed very, very well to 5 or 6 really, really good scoring chances. So to get to walk away in my position saying, well, usually I have 1 or 2 guys that I can focus on and walk away and go, that collectively and individually was above standard and quite competitive against that group was, it's a good day for us.
I'm paraphrasing here, but Brian said if the Rosario has a good game, I don't see why he shouldn't be signed. Did you feel like you saw enough out of the Rosario that he should be signed?
I think, like I said, there were 6 or 7 guys, if you just take last night, that you'd go, wow, we've got more than we thought. If I'm being honest, when we put that roster together at the beginning of the year, we thought work on these 2 or 3 guys and then see who forces the issue, right? And that's kind of what we present to players when we're signing them, is this is an opportunity for you to force our hand, to focus on you and build around you and really help you grow. And so, we had 5 or 6 first team contracted guys playing last night. And so to have the other 5 balance out that level of performance to a point where if you're watching that, you might not be able to pick out the 5. It forces a lot of conversations, which is a great problem in my position.
One of the things that is always impressed upon us, that in the media is you got to learn how to close out games.
Yep.
You got to learn how to find that last bit of the locking of the gate, right? How do you teach this young individuals how to collectively do that, given that was the fault at the end, right? It seems as though they ran out of legs.
You have to reward yourself in sports. I mean, when you create your own opportunities, you've got to then finish them, and right? That's when the metaphor, like, it's easy to hunt. When you become the hunted, like, you've got to figure out how to be smarter. And our guys are hunting, right? And so learning that craft and learning how to put teams away and walking off that field last night, I know it was a loss, but walking off that field, looking back at those opportunities is going to help some of those guys grow. It's going to help them go back and analyze and self-evaluate. Could that touch have been a little more calm? What did I do differently? How can I mentally approach that, physically approach that differently? So it's all part of the learning curve. Unfortunately, in sports, not finishing those chances is a different type of opportunity to learn than the one we wanted. But those guys will mature now from that.
Coach H mentioned when we spoke to him last week that his goal was to, aside from the obvious, which is winning through success, was to provide fans with an opportunity to look at the team as a promise delivered in terms of opportunity. Do you feel that that's what you guys are carrying right now?
Yeah, look, Michael Morris, the entire staff with Defiance is doing a great job with the group. I think what should be also acknowledged is the growth of those guys. The growth off the field from our staff, through our medical staff, our performance staff, Sadeep and Emma, I mean, it's been phenomenal over the last year. It's completely unseen by the general population, but their growth is now the benefit of the players. And the players are the reason we're here. The players are the ones that deserve the credit. We don't ever take credit away from them. But credit where it's due. I think it's overall development of everyone at that level. And I think right now they're all really benefiting from each other's growth.
If there was a need to sign somebody from the Defiance side, how much would that affect what you're looking into bringing in the summer window or with that 10-day period?
None. No. I mean, players that are with Defiance on Defiance contracts, even if they're signed, there has to be a continued pathway of development. It's not a clean jump from MLS Next Pro to MLS. It is still a process to get there, and so even when we sign players, it comes with an elongated process and plan. You see it right now with Stuart Hawkins. He was very good last night against that Portland team. That was his first time playing against top level pros in an actual match, as opposed to MLS Next Pro, where there's some, not all. If you're on the road, it's different than if you're at home and all that good stuff. So it all comes with a plan, but it won't impact any of the senior roster decisions.
And Yamada is an interesting situation because he's here on loan. He's on a first division, owned by a first division team. How would you assess, or how would you describe the way you're looking at him specifically? Is he just here to get minutes, or is there a pathway? Is that complicated? I don't know. How would you describe that?
What I would say is there aren't very many guys on the Defiance roster that are just here for minutes or to fill. The guys that are know they are, because we've told them, and they've accepted that role. He is a player that we're evaluating. We have him on loan for a reason, because we rated him before he got here, and he's done very, very well. So we'll continue to evaluate. It's early in the year, but he's been impressive so far.
And I would feel a little remiss if we didn't ask, how would you describe the status of the pursuit of a U22?
It's challenging. One of the things I've learned that's been humbling over the last 3 months is we're a really good league. And so one of the biggest challenges is finding a 21-year-old that can come in and impact our team and actually play. So not just go spend money to spend money and do an interview with you guys in a month where I'm explaining why that player isn't playing at all, but to go get a player that can contribute. And what we're finding is the level of our league, it commands a very significant spend in order to attract the type of player. And what we're also finding is a lot of the players that have the ability to come to MLS now and contribute immediately are choosing top 5 leagues, because we're not that far behind. We're probably at 9, 10, 11 in the World League now. And so big separation between us and the top 5, 6 in terms of finances and prestige. But it's a big challenge. But we're in a lot of conversations. We've approached 12, 13, 14 guys, and sometimes it comes down to the money. We do have restrictions with our U22 rules in MLS. Sometimes it comes down to earnings, sometimes it's transfer fees, and sometimes it's personal choice. But we've been in a lot of fun conversations, I will tell you that, because we're not getting in conversations with players that we don't think can contribute. We're not really interested in signing a reserve. I've said it before, and I'm very much lacking interest in spending money on a player that's going to sit and watch games.
When you look at the roster build, do you feel like there is a position like, let's say, striker that is definitely going to be where you're going to be hitting that U22, or is there still conversations about where you're going to use that U22?
Yeah, I'd say there's a goal and then there's a reality, right? So anytime you're going to go pick up a player, you're going to target the positions that are naturally the most important on the field. And so that's where we've been focusing a lot of our energy. But in fairness to a couple guys here, they're making us reevaluate that strategy because guys like Danny Muzowski are making us second guess whether or not that's something we need, and fair play to him, you know. So it frees us up to go look at some other players in some significant positions as well.
And we can't have you here without asking you about Ryan Kent. I mean, you were able to turn a bad situation into what could look like a X-factor player and a game-changing player here. You know, first of all, how proud of you of that, and what have you seen out of Ryan Kent for now and for the potential future?
Yeah, proud of the group. You know, I don't do any of this on my own. It's far from it. So, you know, the conversations that Sean Henderson was able to have with Ryan Kent, you know, Andy Rose introducing us to Ryan Kent directly because they had a little bit of overlap in their careers. It all adds up. But credit to Ryan for stepping out of his comfort zone and coming here and fitting in. And to be fair, everywhere in the world, great players show up, and not everywhere in the world do they then perform. That has a lot to do with locker rooms, it has a lot to do with coaches, it has a lot to do with tactics, but mostly it has to do with the individual and how they fit and whether or not they're happy. So from the looks of it, Ryan's happy, and that's the goal.